We are sponsored by a Korean Tottenham Hotspur fan who wishes for all Koreans and the rest of the world to visit and discover Singapore.
Email Kelly for an introduction to Singapore at jrjinsingapore@gmail.com. That's jrjinsingapore@gmail.com.
What's going on, people? We are Tottenham TV, back here for another episode of the 5 Takeaways. We're going to take a look at the 2-1 loss against Bayern Munich in the last game of the Asia Tour. And let's see what 5 things we can take away from it. And number 1, we're going for Jed on the left.
Yeah, so Jed...
Success or failure?
Well, I'll leave up to the viewers to decide. What I would say is, first time he started in the pre-season tour, just after getting a lot of praise from Ange Postecoglou in his press conference. So I think, this is what I was saying before. I was saying, if he's going to be here and he's going to be part of the team, he does need to start one of these games, I feel, to be, up to speed with the team and to feel that Ange trusts him as being part of the team. So I think that was a big indication. Problem is, he did start on the left-hand side, and I didn't feel like he was as comfortable on that side as he is on the right-hand side. I think both defensively and offensively, he did. I think more offensively, he suffered from being on that side. I think defensively, I reckon he would have suffered on either side because I think we were so open, and that's just how we play. Our fullbacks are under a lot of stress; they leave a lot of space, and I think Porro was struggling to deal with his winger, and I think Spence, doesn't matter what side he was, he probably would have struggled to deal with his winger anyway. But I just felt like on the left-hand side, cutting inside in tight spaces, it just didn't look as comfortable. When you look at the games when he came on against QPR and Hearts and the other games, like he just looked so much more comfortable striding down the line and opening up the game and using his pace. Wasn't able to do that at all. And yes, it is better opposition, but and obviously I can't just make a whole judgment. Now you can't play on the left now because I've seen 45 minutes in a pre-season friendly, but all I can say is I don't think it looked as comfortable.
I did see some positives in there from Jed, because I remember saying in the first half, I'm liking the way Jed's looking. I think maybe on the ball you have a point, but we couldn't play out of Bayern's press whatsoever, and it wasn't just Jed. A lot of players were failing in that aspect, but I felt like from his defensive capabilities, I was actually pleased with what he was showing in terms of his aggression off the ball, interceptions, blocks, the way he was able to cut out those passing lanes a lot of the times. I felt like he was doing a good job in certain moments of that first half. But what you got to say is, Destiny Udogie, he's been out for such a long time now, still hasn't played a minute in pre-season. Was he even on the bench yesterday? I don't think so.
I don't think so.
So there's one more pre-season game left, then Leicester, first game of the season, a week later. Surely you think that Destiny probably won't start the season for us?
Probably. We'll have to wait and see if he plays any minutes against Bayern and how he looks when he does play those minutes. But at the moment, obviously when you've been out...
You can't count on him right now.
Well, obviously it depends how he trains. Look, if during the season a player has an injury like that and then they come back into training for a week and they have a few minutes in a game and then the following week they could be ready to start, it's not beyond the realms of possibility. So I wouldn't rule it out, but at the moment he hasn't played, so we have to wait and see if he's fit for Bayern and then how he looks.
How many months has he been out for now?
Since April time.
April. So that's April, May, June, July, August. 5 months out. That's a large chunk out. I think it's hard to believe that he does start that game against Leicester.
Look, we've clearly been bedding him in. He's been on the tour, but he hasn't played. So clearly we're easing him back into things. We're not rushing him back.
I think he only started training, the day before Bayern?
He was, I'm pretty sure, one of the open trainings he was part of. Not like fully, but like he took part in like bits of it. Yeah. So... Look, let's see. Let's see if he plays. I'm not saying even if he doesn't start against Bayern, he can come on for half an hour or 20 minutes and still be fit to play the Leicester game. So I think let's reserve judgment on that. But it might be Spence. It might well be Spence starting the game against Leicester at left back, and he's going to have to improve a bit. I felt like he did struggle with Gnabry, in my opinion. I think he did some good stuff when it came to blocks and clearances and physically getting himself in the way of things. I think he did well. But I think when it came to being run out by Gnabry on that side, I thought Gnabry quite a few times was getting a lot of joy there. And also, I'm looking at the goal again, and I think his body position... Look, again, Vicario gave him a bad pass, so I think Vicario deserves a lot of the blame for the goal. But I do think Jed Spence's body position being on the left-hand side meant that he was not, he had his right foot looking for the ball to roll across his body, where if he was on the right-hand side, it might have been a different situation, and I don't know if maybe he wouldn't be on his heels so much. So I do think, it could just be he needs to adapt to that role and he needs more time there. I'm just saying I don't think he looked as comfortable there.
Next up, we're going to look at Bergvall class. Chef Bergvall producing once again. Do you think he's been the biggest shining light of pre-season so far?
Definitely. So there's been a lot of shining lights, especially for the youngsters, but I think he probably is, in terms of the players, just been so consistent and so full of quality and so exciting and so good to watch. I think probably Bergvall takes the cake on that one. And to see him perform against Bayern Munich to that kind of level really got me excited, because yes,
you weren't excited
exactly.
before.
But look, it's one thing doing it against Hansa QPR and Vissel Kobe. Look, obviously, even at 18, doing that is so impressive. But then coming on against Bayern, you've got Paulinho and Goretzka, who've just come off the bench as well. So, up against some really experienced customers. And he's holding his own, not just physically, off the ball, putting in some great crunching challenges, but on the ball as well, able to find space, ask difficult questions of that Bayern Munich midfield, and nearly got himself on the score sheet. And he was really running the show in a lot of different occasions and little flicks, able to exploit the space as well. And that was really an example of what a talent we do have, doing that against Bayern Munich, even though it's only in a pre-season friendly. I thought it was astonishing, and look, that begs a question: does he start the season?
For me, he has to.
Andrew's got an interesting dilemma, I would say.
For me, he has to. He has to. He's the guy that is showing quality game in, game out, no matter who the opposition is. I've brought the situation and the idea to you a few times now during this pre-season, saying I'm liking it to the Dele Alli pre-season when he broke in and everyone started to sit up and take note, really, after that Real Madrid performance when he was putting it through Toni Kroos and Modric's legs, I think it was, at the time. And I think you've pretty much all but told me to calm down on that front. But I think after that performance from against Bayern Munich, I think it's time to get excited, and I think it's time and I think he should be in the starting lineup come Leicester.
And I can understand that, because he's in great form. Every time he's been on the pitch, he's been great, and he's really apart from maybe the first half against Vissel, where maybe that was his weakest performance, I think he's been outstanding in pretty much every other game in pre-season. To do that at 18, new league, new team, shows quality to do that. He hasn't taken time to adapt to the situation. He's literally come in and been flying. But it is Premier League football coming up, and it is going to be more serious challenges, and it's going to be competitive football. So we'll have to wait and see how he performs on that stage before we start crowning him, the new Dele Alli. But he definitely looks exciting, and it'll be interesting. I would think, but I'm going to guess, that despite his impressive form, Ange will not start him against Leicester. That's my prediction, unless we haven't signed a striker, which is probably likely, and then Decky plays in the 9, and then maybe he plays alongside Maddison. Even then, I think it's unlikely.
What do you think if we play a 9, Decky plays alongside Maddison?
If we play, I think there's a good. That's how we played a few games. I reckon there's a good chance that happens, because I don't know. Sarr hasn't been quite. He's come back from injury a bit, and I don't know. Maybe Decky could partner Maddison against Leicester. I've got a feeling. I think, considering Maddison is vice captain and he's such a big player for us, and I don't think he's been bad in pre-season, albeit Bergvall's been better. I do think, just seeing how Ange has managed the team so far, he will go with Maddison, but I'll be very intrigued and impressed if he does go Bergvall.
Yeah, me as well. Next up, we're going to talk about the learning curve for Archie Gray. Definitely his most disappointing performance so far against a very strong Bayern Munich midfield. But I think we also got to remember that he has played a lot of minutes on this pre-season tour in the games before, where he's looked very impressive against lesser opposition. I just feel like the Archie Gray performance was a culmination of him coming up against real top quality players in that midfield, and also all the circumstances going into it.
Yeah, obviously we've been worked to the bone, and I think a lot of these players were on their feet in that friendly. You could see it at Bayern were much fresher. I think Archie Gray was one of those players maybe struggling a bit, albeit he is one of the fittest players in the squad in terms of stamina and things like that, which is very impressive. But Archie Gray in this pre-season tour has been a beacon of composure, a player who's just been able to take the ball in possession in most situations and progress the ball forward or look to. This was probably the first time we've really seen him get caught, not just once, not twice, but on multiple occasions. And I thought they pressed him really effectively. He couldn't really get out that press. Whenever he tried to pass his way out, it was getting intercepted. A few times he looked to turn and ran into someone who wasn't aware of his surroundings. So clearly, coming up against that level of opposition, it's going to need some time for him. He's only 18. I know we've seen him play well against Premier League teams for Leeds. So I'm not saying he can't do it in the Premier League, because I do think he can even now. But playing in the six, all that responsibility, especially against a good team like Bayern, seemed to be a bit much for him at this stage. But there could be a lot of, you could easily say it's because he was tired, because the whole team weren't functioning, and those are also part of the problem as well. Maybe that's also why he wasn't functioning. But we'll have to wait and see whether he's going to be our six at the start of the season, or is Basuma going to start?
I think Basuma starts the season for me. I think Basuma, well, definitely in the early part of pre-season, looked really good. Archie Gray, yes, has looked good as well, but more he's looked good at the centre-back, to be honest, than in the midfield. And I like Archie Gray, and I think he is going to be a really important player for us this season. But I do think Basuma starts in the sixth position, start the season. And I'm not worried about that Archie Gray performance against Bayern Munich, because I think there's a lot of circumstances involved. And it wasn't just Archie Gray that was showing those traits. It was a lot of players on that pitch.
I'm surprised he hasn't maybe given Gray a bit of a run at left back, because I think he could be really suited to that, and we know he can play right back as well. I actually think he's probably more suited to it in our system than Jed Spence on the left back, because of how he can take the ball in tight spaces and how composed he is in those areas. So, considering the dog is injured, I'm surprised he hasn't at least had a look in there. But look, Gray has started every game in pre-season. So is that an indication that Ange is planning on starting him at the start of the season?
I don't think so. I think when he was coming in the first few games, he was filling in at centre-back, because we didn't have any centre-backs. If Romero and Van der Ven or Dragoshin were there, would Gray have started every game? I'm not sure. Moving far away.
Sorry. Yeah, and you might have a case. So it'll be interesting to see what Ange does at the start of the season. But maybe he's just a bedding in period. But even like Bergwijn hasn't started every game, but I guess he's not as versatile as Gray.
I think you really want Bergwijn starting at centre back.
I guess Gray, he's been starting to skip. He's been starting a lot of different players at centre back. But look, Gray, his versatility is definitely working in his favour. So as much as he might not start the first game, I'm sure it won't be long before he starts his first Premier League game.
Yeah, look, we've got quite hard. We've got Arsenal very early on in the season. It'll be interesting to see which way he goes. First game is Leicester. Playing a promoted team first game up is always going to be a difficult case. But I think Archie Gray, I think he starts getting minutes first and foremost in the Cups and in Europe. I think that's where his minutes will come from, definitely in the early stages. Next up, fourth takeaway, we're going to look at the fullbacks providing.
Yeah, and I was actually looking at this. Obviously, Porro got on the score sheet against Bayern Munich with a great goal, 25 yards out. And I think that might be the fourth goal by a fullback in this pre-season. He scored, obviously, against Vissel Kobe. Jed Spence scored against QPR. Hearts. And who else scored? No, maybe not, but Donnelly has been obviously getting in a lot of goal scoring positions as well. Spence nearly got on the score sheet against QPR. So the fullbacks have been really a big feature of our attacking play so far. And I actually think the fullbacks, from an offensive point of view, have probably, apart from maybe Sonny and Sonny and Decky be doing well, but I feel like the fullbacks are really providing that threat, which maybe a few wingers have failed to provide, haven't they, throughout this pre-season. We know how effective these fullbacks can be in Ange's system, and I think there's just another indication that we're getting fullbacks on the score sheet yet again. Yeah,
and I love the kind of positions they take up on the pitch. I love the way Ange plays it, inverting, pretty much like a number 10 at times, our fullbacks are. And I think the fullbacks that we do have to deploy do have those qualities, those attacking qualities, even the ones that aren't there at the moment, like Destiny Doggy. So it's not really a surprise to me, because I felt like it was a key staple of our play last season as well.
100%. The only worry for me at this point is we're now a year into Ange's tenure, and at the moment, it doesn't seem to me he's figured out how he can play this system without getting absolutely killed on the wings. And he's asking a lot of his fullbacks to be number 10, and then as soon as we lose the ball, they have to get back in position. And that is a lot to ask of a lot of players. And also, they are spending a lot of time in those number 10 positions, where I feel like sometimes, wouldn't it be better if we just had Maddison there, right, rather than just these fullbacks there all the time? That's sometimes what I feel. I'm not necessarily saying that's definitely the right course of action, but look, if we start the season the first few months and we're still getting killed on the wings, Andrew's going to come under pressure if we keep conceding goals in that way.
And he'll have to find ways around it. You know, we all know the system he plays. He's played at every single club. I know the Premier League is a different kettle of fish to the other leagues that he has been in before, but we've all seen his first season, he's come under a lot of fire at pretty much all the clubs that he's been in terms of him tactically. And in the second season, he does seem to sort things out. So I know it's looked worrying at times in pre-season so far. We've conceded goals, multiple goals, I think, apart from Hearts game, every game. Hearts and QPR aside, I mean, 3 against the K-League, 2 against Bayern Munich. So we're conceding a lot of goals, right, in this pre-season. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So I think people got to reserve their judgment. I think of when the season starts, you need to really judge it, because I think it's unfair to judge it on pre-season.
It is, but I'm not just judging on pre-season, I'm judging on last season as well, but I guess that is his first season. I think for me, right now, I think the only way we solve it is just we have to create such a high level, high volume of chances that if, yes, we concede 1 or 2 chances, good chances from those wings per game, you know, we've scored 3 or 4 goals, so it doesn't really matter whether we concede 1 or 2 chances. That's the only kind of way at the moment I'm seeing a solution to that, because at the moment, I just feel like, especially when I'm looking at the first team, I'm not seeing enough chances created to justify putting that risk on, if you know what I mean. So that needs to change.
Yeah, and the way that needs to change is we need new signings in the door.
And we need more quality.
Anyway, last, 5th and final takeaway is Radu Dragusin getting back up to scratch.
Yeah,
Speed.
Played 45 minutes in this one. Didn't look at his total fittest, clearly still a bit off the pace. Yeah. But look, with Radu now back in earlier than Romero van der Ven, they're obviously a week away from they're coming back next week, and they've had long, grueling tournaments, and Romero has been celebrating his win. Van der Ven was, did he get to the semis? Semis, out to England.
Us.
Yeah, out to England. Obviously, he didn't play that much. He played quite a bit off the bench, but he didn't really start any games, I don't think. Is there a chance Dragusin starts the season?
Yeah, for sure. 100%. I think it depends what condition these players come back in. They do come back this week. The players flew back as of today from Korea. We've got a pre-season against Bayern Munich. We have to wait and see what condition they're in when they do return. So of course there's a case that Dragusin starts the first game of the season. Whether it be instead of Romero or Van der Ven, we don't know. I would assume it would probably be ahead of Romero instead of Van der Ven, seeing as the amount of game time Romero did have in the tournament. He played every single minute in the tournament.
Such an important player for them.
Yeah. So Van der Ven, as much as, you know, he was at the tournament till the latter stages, till the semi-finals, he didn't actually play that much football, so he might be in better condition.
Yeah, you would think so. So, look, if Dragusin is going to start the season, he needs to be a bit better than he was, I thought, against Bayern, but with that can happen. And
but you know what, there's a case for, if they do come back in good condition, which I probably think they will, there's a case to, if Udogie doesn't make it, you know, to play all 3.
That's also a good case. If Udogi's not available, put Van der Ven left back, and then you got Dragusin and Romero. And obviously Dragusin, I thought, was brilliant for Romania in a lot of their games in the Euros as well. So he should be coming back in confident mood. So wasn't his best game against Bayern, but I'm looking forward to seeing how he does start the season. I'm looking forward to seeing a lot more than him, because yes, he played the last 3 games of the season, but before then, you know, we didn't see enough of him.
And he had a brilliant Euros, isn't it? It was a shining light for Romania. And we'll have to wait and see. Look, again, like I do think the starting centre-backs will obviously be Romero and Van der Ven, and Dragusin will be playing the Cup games and the Europa games. But when you look at this time last year and the state of our defence, Van der Ven hadn't even come in yet. So we had Davinson Sanchez, Eric Dyer, Cuti Romero, and that was it, right? Did we have anyone else?
Yeah, well, we had, well, at this time last year, correct. But the problem is, you know, you look at the run at the end of the last season, we had a full fit defence, and we were conceding goals left, right and centre. Yeah. So that needs to be rectified.
100%. But that is your 5 takeaways. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. Like, subscribe and comment. And as always,
come on you Spurs.